Hey everybody, it is John from Seattle Coffee Gear. We're in the commercial kitchen today and we're going to talk about how to change the burrs on a Eureka grinder. With me today I have two Eureka Zenith 65E grinders. This one is a cool cutaway that I'll show you guys most of the stuff on. This one is one that we've actually used, so I'm going to use this for part of the cleaning portion. Let's go ahead and get started. This grinder has two things done to it already that you're going to start with. So the first thing is making sure your grinder is turned off. The second thing is making sure your grinder is unplugged. Very important to do that for safety reasons. You don't want to grind your fingers or damage the grinder itself. So once those two are done, you can get started. These grinders typically would have a hopper on them, so you would shut your hopper, grind through any of your coffee, and then take this little screw out and remove the hopper altogether. And then this piece lifts off. We already took it off that one. And then the next step is removing these three screws here. We did a video on just kind of cleaning these grinders and showing that, but we didn't do one on actually removing the burrs. So some of this will be overlap, but if you're in the middle of changing your burrs, you probably don't want to see all that. Anyways, now you're taking out these three screws. These screws hold in the upper burr set because these grinders have the upper burr set and the bottom burr set. The bottom burr set on these grinders is actually attached to the motor itself because the bottom burr is the one that spins. The bottom burr is also the adjustment burr, which also means that you can take this apart and put it back together and your grind setting will be pretty close to where you started at. Almost there. So I have all of that out there. Make sure you keep your screws in a safe place. And then you have access to your upper burr holder. And this is where these little screws there hold the burr to this piece of metal here. While I'm holding this here, we can actually take a look at these burrs. These burrs have been used a little bit, not a ton, but it's really important to change your burrs based on the amount of weight of coffee that has gone through them, not by how you think they look or how you think your coffee tastes, because that's really not a great indicator. And if your burrs are getting dull or chipped and you're still running coffee through your grinder, you're wearing on other parts of your grinder. You're making your motor work harder. You're making other parts of the grinder work harder. So not changing your burrs at the recommended weight ratings is going to make your entire grinder last a lot less time. So really important to change these at the recommended weight settings. Most of that's going to be listed on a manufacturer's site. For these Eureka ones, it's about 800 pounds. And these are steel burrs. We're going to be replacing them with these red speed coated burrs, which are steel and then they're coated. So now that we've talked through all of that, let's talk about removing this actual burr. So these little flat screws hold the burr in, and all you're doing is turning those loose. This third one obviously doesn't have a screw in it because there's nothing to screw into there. It's easier if you do this on a flat surface instead of trying to do it in your hands. Don't lose these screws because your new burrs will not come with more screws. And it always seems like it's taking forever. And there you have it. There is one burr removed. These say Eureka on them, and then they also say HS for high speed on them. Pretty cool. And oftentimes, looks like these don't have it. These don't either. Usually they'll have a designation as to the size of them, but I know those are 65 millimeter burrs. The next part is where things can get a little bit tricky because this is obviously spinning freely here. Shift it so you guys can see that. Spinning freely, and you can see actually how this works. When it's spinning like this, these are actually pushing coffee around while coffee's falling in here and getting pushed out. And then these are catching it and pushing it around, and then it goes out this little chute here and out into your portafilter. So that's how these grinders work. If you try and turn one of these screws, it turns the whole thing, which is not good. So you want to have a wrench on hand to do this part, and conveniently, it's like they thought ahead. This is actually shaped so you can get a wrench around it. So I find it easiest to go kind of from this angle and then come in here and take out your screws. Shift that around there. All right, and then this should, if I got it, just lift right on out. This is also a great opportunity, and you really need to make sure you do this, to have your place where the burrs are going to mount to be completely free and clear of coffee, because even a little bit of coffee can make that not level and cause damage to your burrs and possibly your grinder as well. So to show you that, I have this grinder here, which has obviously been used quite a bit, and we just want to clean that out. It's really helpful to have a vacuum while you're doing this. I don't have one here, so I'm not going to do that, but just make sure you get all the coffee out of there and make sure that surface there that the burrs are going to mount to is completely clear. This is also a great opportunity to come in here and clean out this little chute of any coffee that might be hanging out in there. Again, prime opportunity to have a grinder or to have a vacuum nearby to clean that out. You can even go up the other direction and you can kind of see some coffee getting pushed up out of there. I'm not going to do that whole thing right now because that will be extremely boring, but that's a good little shot of what you should be doing. And at the end, it should look as close as you can to this grinder here, just to have a really nice mounting surface there so it's completely level. To go along with that, this burr should also be completely clean before you put it in so that it has a nice mounting surface to go against this one here. And then you're going to drop these in. And the same thing we did a second ago, take your wrench, and I put it where I had it before, and take your screwdriver with your screws, and at this point I like to drop all my screws in, but that's blocking that, so I'm going to get that one mainly in before I tighten it. And this can also help you align the burrs a little bit. Once you have all three screws in there, the burr is not really going to move, and that's how an easy way to make sure those are aligned. Get that all the way down. Get this one all the way down. And then once those are just about finger tight, then I'm going to make sure this burr is set there. Shouldn't move if you did it right. Spin that right there. Using that to hold this in place. And then just tighten those down. You don't need them to be completely ratcheted, but you definitely want to make them tight. I'm going to move that back to there. And then the same thing goes for your upper burr. Just make sure it's completely cleared off of any coffee. Do the same for your burrs. Set it back on top here. And did I lose my screws? No, I didn't. There's that. And there's that. Now I will go ahead and tighten this back down. So I stabbed myself. I'm gonna do what I did before and put this on a flatter surface to make this easier on myself. Come on. There we go. Struggling here. Alrighty, just about there. And just about there. There we go. It looks like that's actually not quite aligned right there, so I'm going to unscrew those. Try and center that up. It's easier to align these when you have that third screw to hold it in place because it's just the third point of contact there. With just these two screws to hold it in place, it's a little bit trickier. But that's what it should look like once you're done. And then I'm going to set this back on top here. An easy way to remember where you are is this is the piece that holds in the hopper, so it should be right over here, just to the left of the actual control kind of module there. And then I'm going to take my screws and go back in. And again, my grinder is powered off. It is unplugged, so there's no chance of me injuring myself here, aside from maybe my own ineptitude. Screw this back in. And again, to recap while I'm doing this, change your burrs based on the weight rating of the burrs. Don't change it based on taste or the view or look of the burrs. The burrs might look fine, your coffee might taste fine, but if you are getting to those up to that 800 pounds, just change your burrs. It's going to extend the life of your grinder for a lot longer. And then put this back on here, right in there. That's also another way to tell if you have it in the right spot. These all have a little indent here where it fits around this little guy that holds it. And then your hopper goes back on, coffee goes in, and you're off to the races. Well, again, I just want to reiterate for the third time here, please make sure to change your burrs based on the weight ratings of the burrs. So calculating how much coffee by weight you're putting through your grinder. This is easier if you're in a coffee shop because you can figure out how much coffee you use per day of that specific coffee and then just calculate that out over the number of days times the pounds of coffee till you get to that weight rating there. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You learned something about changing the burrs on a Eureka grinder. If you have questions or if you think I didn't cover something here, leave those in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to our channel if you want to see more videos like this. Thanks for watching and have a great day.